Good morning, lovelies. Today we are going to be talking about my top 10 favorite tropes in the fantasy genre. The reason I keep reading and writing books in this genre. Before we get started, remember to click that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss another video. I post new videos every Sunday. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. All the links are in the description. As usual, these tropes are my personal favorite, which makes them objective opinions that are my own. If you know any books, movies, or shows that incorporate these tropes, especially if they have these and some of my favorite female character tropes, please let me know in the comments. Number 1, world building, also known as the lore. This is especially relevant in epic fantasy stories that take place in a totally made-up world and society. A common complaint among the fantasy genre is that authors go too deep in their story's lore, the history and the world building and the magic systems, and while too much of a good thing can get tedious, I literally got my bachelor's degree in history. I eat this shit up. I love it when a fantasy world has an established history and that the characters talk about and that is relevant to the story. The world building is the whole reason I read fantasy. I want to see how this society has evolved over time, especially if you're throwing magic into the mix. It gets bonus points if their history and subsequent societal problems echo the real world problems that the characters have to either work through or solve, because my other major was social justice. If you're surprised by any of that, you haven't been paying attention. Number 2, hard magic systems. I talked about magic systems in my On Writing Magic video, and I'll link that in the corner if you haven't seen it. Quick recap, a soft magic system is very lax on the rules and regulations about how magic is done in this world. The rules either don't exist or the author doesn't tell you how they work. A hard magic system has clear rules, costs, and limits, and every magic system you've ever read exists on a sliding scale between the two. I don't have anything against soft magic systems, but I definitely prefer hard magic. Insert dick joke here. Even if the protagonist isn't necessarily the one doing any magic or doesn't fully understand it, I like knowing that they can't just wave their hand and magic the problem away. I really like it when there are costs to magic, so the characters have to figure out if they can or should do the spell. For example, the main characters in Full Metal Alchemist have the opportunity to achieve their goal and fix their horrible mistake from their backstory when they figure out how to make a Philosopher's Stone. It has what they've been gunning for since day one, a 3-year campaign, and they have it. It is in their hands, but they refuse, because creating the stone requires killing over a dozen people. The more people you kill, the more powerful it is. So they decide that they're going to find a different way to do it. There are no easy answers! I love that! I also love it when the hard magic system gives us very strict rules, limits, and costs, but the writer creates a loophole that the hero figures out in the climax of the story. That is the bomb! Full Metal Alchemist did that too. Seriously, if you haven't seen it or read the manga, you should. Number 3, fantasy races. Give me elves, give me dwarves, give me something new entirely. I don't care, it's all good. I especially love new takes on old classics, like Dragon Prince. Sure, give the Scottish accent normally reserved to dwarves to the elves. There's a reason that I never play the human in Dungeons & Dragons. I want to see the advantages and disadvantages of an entirely different species. What is it really like to live an immortal lifetime in a world populated by humans? How does society evolve from a species that shoots fireballs when they sneeze? How does all this affect their culture? It's so fascinating. Number 4, adventure. I genuinely do not see the point in a fantasy book if there's not an adventure involved. It doesn't even have to be a deadly adventure. A road trip will work. Adventures are great for 2 reasons. The first is that they provide a Great way for the characters to change and evolve. It's great for their narrative arc. The second reason is that they let the reader explore more of the fantasy world. If the characters are traveling, you're traveling with them, so you get to see all the different cities and cultures, and it's so cool. Adventures also usually involve fight scenes, meeting cool and interesting characters, and they also lead directly into my next favorite trope. Number 5, found family. Few things are better than seeing a ragtag group of misfits find a family with each other. 5-man bands, the power of friendship, full-on adoption of a traumatized protagonist, whatever it is, I am here for it. It's all about that emotional hurt comfort. A lot of times the found family will be made up of orphans or people with abusive pasts. In other words, their biological relatives just aren't an option. Some members of the group might have functional, healthy families, but they're separated from them for an extended period of time and thus have to teach the other friends how a real family works and end up setting themselves a second family. Either way, you've got a colorful group of characters finding comfort and love with each other. And that's just so wholesome. Number 6, power couples. I know. I've bitched about romantic subplots so much on this channel. How dare I even consider putting a romantic pairing on a best tropes list. Bear with me. For those of you who don't know, a power couple is when you have a romantic pairing who are powerful on their own and an absolute beast when they're together. For example, let's say you have 2 soldiers who are both absolutely amazing at fighting. Then they get together romantically and they start fighting together and they're twice as good. Or 2 politicians, like a king and a queen. Oftentimes, power couples will be opposites. For example, one will be a soldier while another is an academic or a politician, or a paladin and a wizard. Not only do opposites attract, but their differing skills will complement each other. A great example is from the Percy Jackson series, where Percy, the son of Poseidon, starts dating Annabeth, daughter of Athena, a classic headstrong hero with mighty powers, partnering with the strategist/bookworm. They're perfectly capable on their own, but when Percy has access to Annabeth's brain, they're able to solve much larger problems a lot more quickly. But there's a particular type of power couples that I especially love and so rarely get to see. The villain power couple. It's very rare to see a villain in a healthy, non-obsessive, non-abusive romantic relationship, and even rarer for that romantic partner to be actively helping them in their villainy. This is likely because being in a romantic relationship naturally means being vulnerable and compassionate to each other, and authors don't really like their villains to be anything other than scary. But having a romantic relationship naturally makes the villain complex and 3-dimensional. If that romantic partner is also a villain, you've basically doubled your villain's power and capability. And if one of them ends up being hurt or killed by the heroes, it can make that victory very bittersweet, and the surviving villain very angry. Number 7, dragons. In case you needed a hint as to how much I love dragons, I literally named my channel after them. There's just no bigger staple of the fantasy genre, and dragons come in so many different varieties that it's staggering. Wings, no wings, eastern or western, breathing fire or breathing something else, intelligent or bestial, good guy, bad guy, who cares? It's all good. Just give me dragons. Give them to me. Number 8. Redemption arcs. Not specific to fantasy genre, but I see them here a lot. They're easily botched, but when you do it right, there are a lot of reasons to love redemption arcs. It makes you root for the villain for being redeemed, as well as rooting for the hero to accomplish their goal. It reinforces the belief that everyone has at least a little kernel of good in them, and it adds yet another layer to the story. I especially love redemption arcs if they include some sort of enemies to friends deal. The greatest example is, of course, Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. He spends the first 51 out of 61 episodes chasing around the good guy squad all around the world. But we're rooting for him to snap out of it as early as episode 3. When he does, he then spends the last 10 episodes of the show becoming accepted into the friend group and being a vital part of the effort to save the world. Number 9. Pure evil. I know it's weird since I just got done singing the praises of redemption arcs, which normally require complex and sympathetic villains rather than the pure evil, cartoonish villainy, but they both have a place in fantasy and they often exist in the same story because they highlight each other. Zuko is a kind, compassionate, traumatized boy. His father, the source of his trauma, is pure evil and needs to be destroyed like yesterday. Both are valid. Pure evil villains have a bad rep these days. Everyone's talking about complex villains and sympathetic villains, the ones who are the heroes of their own story, the ones that the audience likes just as much as the hero. Pure evil villains are also probably the heroes of their own story, but even if they're not, they're still fun to watch. Pure evil villains, when done right, are like Hershey's plain chocolate bars. They're very simple, just pure chocolate, and delicious. And you can throw them in with some other ingredients like s'mores, and it's even better. The marshmallow is the hero, and the graham crackers are the other morally gray characters, and the fire is... This just got away with me. I'm hungry now. Pure evil villains are fun to watch because they're flamboyant, charismatic, and confident. They have a goal and they're going to get it done no matter what they have to do or who they have to kill. And then after they've ruined everyone's day, watching them get their asses kicked by the good guys is just what the doctor ordered. And number 10, happy endings. Or at least hopeful, bittersweet ones. At the end of the day, I need to see evil punished and the chance of happiness for the characters that we've been rooting for. You can kill off characters, lose some battles, throw an unexpected plot twist here and there. That's all fine, that's all part of the story. But unless it is explicitly stated as a tragedy, I need my happy ending. Call me basic, that's what I signed up for. Those are my top 10 favorite fantasy tropes. List yours in the comments as well as the books, movies, and shows that they appear in so we can check them out. If you liked this video, hit subscribe, and if you want early access to these videos and more content, check me out on Patreon and social media. All the links are in the description. Bye, lovelies!